Welcome to Harburn Double O, or indeed welcome back to Harburn Double O. This is not a full video of Rocrail, folks. It's all about the automation of the engine shed door, the sounding of the alarms, using delays for the trains, making sure things are in before things happen. So I'll take you over to the PC and I'll show you how I automated the engine shed. Up here I've got block 12. This is outside the engine shed. Unfortunately there's only one sensor, that's that enter and in sensor, so it's combined. I really could have done with two sensors, but I'll work with one sensor. Let you see how it works for it. Block 13, that's the block where the engine shed is, so it's actually inside the engine shed. Let's work with two sensors, sensor 17 and sensor 29. I've set two accessories for the door, one for door open and one for door close. Now way over here I've set up an accessory for the sound. So let's look at these first. Right click the properties. So in general it's just a description. It says it's open the door, it's associated with block 13. The computer does that itself, you don't have to put that in yourself there. That's done when you start programming it. Interface, I've got it set up in address 100 for open, address 101 for close, and the alarm is address 80. All these values here are all left blank and it's ticked for accessory. So that's the same for door open, door close and the alarm. Only difference being is the port number, the address for the ECOS I use. So the next thing I set up was the actions. So Alt and 3 brings up the actions table. So look, close, open and sound. I'll go to the close one and go to definition. It sets the output. You set it several things there, folks. And the ID, I've set it to D1 close. The command is going to be on. And the rest, I believe, for the duration, the only difference being I've got a timer of 2000 milliseconds, i.e. 2 seconds. So before this is triggered, it waits 2000 milliseconds before it triggers. And in the interface I've left blank. If you put your address in here or port in here again, you risk the chance of a double trigger, what you don't want. So that's the close. I've got the index there, the open. The definition is exactly the same as close with the timer set to 2000 seconds. If I go to the alarm, the definitions, you know, in this part here now the timer is left at 0. Next we need to think about the delay of the loco. So in other words, the alarm sounds, the door opens before the loco moves. So make sure it's not in automatic mode. Right click on block 12 and go to properties. In properties, on the general tab, you go down to departure delay, and I've set it to 5 seconds. If I go to block 12, to block 13, general, it's set to 5 seconds as well. Now you can set it to what you want. It's sitting on the concrete platform outside for 10 seconds before it goes in, you know. It's up to you to do that what you want to do. So OK that. Now if I do control 1 in the loco tab, I click on the stop art and I go to details. In order for the loco to wait that 5 seconds, you've got to have use depart delay ticked as well. Ask me how I know if it doesn't work. So that's the departure part done there, folks. So next we need to start programming these actions in. So for the loco to go from block 12 to block 13, that's a route. So if I do control 1 to align control 2, it brings up the route table. So if I go to block 12 to block 13, go to general. So now we need to think about the actions from the loco leaving outside to going inside the shed. So basically it goes from block 2 to block 13, and that is a route. So if we do control 2, it brings up the route table. And we go down to block 12 to block 13 and go to general. And then we go down to the actions. This is the actions that are put in place there, folks. So I've got the alarm and the command to open the door. Look at the alarm one first. It's set as the ID being alarm. You've got the choice of the ones you've set up. You've got the state. I've set the state to lock. Duration timers all blank. The locomotive, you can select that if you only want certain locomotives to go into each part of the shed. But I'm finding with Rocrail, it's putting starboard in there because that's what I'm using all the time to set this program up. It does it itself. Then with Rocrail, the reset button is ticked. Now you make sure this is unticked because you've got a chance of a double action. If the reset is ticked, it could fire the alarm and the lock, the open command twice. So make sure it's unticked, the reset button. Once the loco enters the engine shed and comes to a halt, we need to think about closing the door. So to do that, in block 13, if I right click it, go to properties and go down to actions. Now in the actions there, you can see I put the alarm and the close because I want the alarm to sound and then the door to close. Now same again there with the alarm and the close there. I've got the ID and I've got it set as the ID as in. This is the in command. So once the loco reaches the sensor, if I show you it, this sensor here, sensor number 29, that is the sensor to say, that's me, I'm in, stop the loco. So the action will be, once the loco's in there, it knows it's entered and it's in, it then will set itself to stop the loco, sound the alarm and close the door. Once again, with both the states there, actions there, the reset button is unticked. Let's see that'll work then, folks. I switch the power on, make sure it's in automatic mode, take the loco from block 12 to block 13. The loco is now in the engine shed. Now it gets a bit more complex, folks, because we bring it out and only use one sensor. So we need to be a bit more creative here. So now we're going to bring the loco out the shed into block 12. So once again, block 13 to block 12 is a route. So control 2 brings up the route panel, and I'll show you the actions I applied in here. So 13 to block 2 and the actions I put in. So I want the alarm to sound and the door to open. There's no conditions set in there. Everything else is the same as the 12 to 13 route. Set to lock, and the reset button is unticked as well. So now we need to think about, once the loco has left the engine shed and came to a halt in block 12, how we close the door. Now, as I said before, we're using this sensor here as enter in. So if I go to the properties of that one, and actions, this is where I put in the close the door. Now, it's still alarm on and close on as well, but this time you're seeing I've put in some figures here. For the alarm to sound, I put in 9,000 milliseconds, an hour's 9 seconds, and for the door to close, I put in 11,000 milliseconds, i.e. 11 seconds. This is because it's got to be clear of the engine before it closes, and now I'm using these timers to ensure it is done. It's not the best way to do it, folks, but it's the only way I can do it without putting another sensor on the track. And unfortunately, I've run out of sensors in this part of the layout. I could use the WIO in the future. But what happens then without conditions applied? When it works perfect, the loco comes out in the block 12, the door closes with the alarm sounding first, but when you go from block 9 to block 12, it does the same. So then, therefore, I had to put in some conditions with it. So FB3 9, I bring up the properties again, the actions, and the conditions here. I put in a condition. So I've added the condition block, so it's a route, block 13 to block 12. I put in the state to be locked. So therefore, I only do that action when it goes from block 13 to block 12. It's quite important you put that condition in there, folks. Here, when it goes from block 9 to block 12, it doesn't do it. So, okay that, and okay that. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks, there. It certainly was a learning curve for me. If you have any comments, please leave a comment below. Leave a like, and if you want, subscribe as well, folks. Cheers. Thanks for watching.